training. Most of you guys are runners out there, but Kyla also does a lot of great work with triathletes and cyclists. We can get you guys on there too.
Let's say hi to our YouTube crowd. Guys, we are live on YouTube. This is our episode 21. Welcome to Performance Nutrition with Nate and Kyla. We're going to be talking performance nutrition the entire time. I'm going to get out of the frame because I'm all just jammed up in here and let you guys get at it. All right, so we should be good here. And then if you're signing on YouTube or Facebook, if you're watching us, tell us where you're from. We got another 4 or 5 minutes before we really get started here. We'd love to hear where you're from, where you're signing in from, and tell us what's going on with your running right now. If you have any nutrition questions or training questions in general, we have the dream team here for both nutrition and running training. Usually, we don't have a nutritionist on staff, and I have to answer about what I have in my kitchen. So you guys are in for a treat. Okay, we should be good here. And
let's see if we're live on this channel. Do you want to refresh that?
Yeah.
Couple minutes, guys, and we'll get started. Yeah, it looks like we got a live video going there.
Yeah?
Yeah.
Oh, there you go.
Always making sure we're all teed up on everything.
Boom. Wow.
Fantastic.
Awesome.
Can you see comments here? You can. Oh, look, we got some comments already.
Sweet.
Yeah, it looks like it's not playing. That's fine. We just want to see the comments. Let's see here.
Perfect.
What's up, Bob? What's up, Lee? How you guys doing?
All right, cool.
There we go. And then on the YouTube side, hey, we got the Mr. saying hi. Kyle, hey, from Louisville, Kentucky, but not Kyle Bowling.
Oh, what?
Kyle Niebuhr.
Oh,
we
yeah.
have another
Right.
Kyle coming in from Louisville.
So why don't you introduce Kyla again, because as these people are signing on, they don't know who she is.
Well, of course. We're going to get to that.
All right, I'm not.
So this...
I don't think they do.
Oh my goodness. So this lovely lady to my right, maybe to your left on the screen, because it kind of reverses to the right, so you're confused. Anyway, she's right next to me. Kyla Channell. She is the owner of Nutritional Revolution, and she is on with us for an hour to really get into some fun nutrition, hydration questions. I know you guys love to geek out about that stuff, so that is why she is on here. I always like to say, if you were to follow my nutritional advice, you'd be drinking too much coffee in the morning and too much bourbon at night, and it, all depending what you're trying to do, It could work, but maybe not.
Totally. Yeah.
So you're local as well, right?
Yes.
Where you live?
So I'm in just north of San Francisco in West Marin area, little town called Woodacre.
Very cute and quaint.
Yes, it is.
Rural.
Yes, close to the trails, which is nice. So,
close to the trails.
Yeah,
We're both
that's important.
close to the trails and green space, which is nice.
Yeah.
We're both in the big scary city right now.
Yeah.
know.
Parking was challenging.
Totally crazy. Guys, we are doing a giveaway at the end of this hour. We are going to be offering, Kyla is going to be offering 2 of her performance nutrition templates. These are fantastic for different things, right? Like if you're focusing on weight loss, if there's more performance element.
Yeah. So depending on, I guess, your winners, what their goals are, whether they're trying to maintain for their performance, obviously whether they're a male or female, and then whether they maybe are trying to lose weight, are they trying to decrease their body fat percentage? Those are all kind of factors that the template will help you figure out and will be specific.
That's really cool. So it's always good to have a plan, right? And we start to dabble it in. Let's talk to you guys on YouTube. We got a bunch of you guys chiming in before we officially start. We got. We always like to know where you guys are coming in from. If you're just tuning in right now, give us a holler. Where you coming in? We got the Mister from England. I love the YouTube names. Michael said, "Hi guys from Russia. What's up?"
Awesome.
Hi from Morocco. Sarah says Rosendale, New York. Nilesh, hi from India. What's up, man? Kyle says, the outside of my hips hurt the joints. Any tips? We will get there, Kyle. Nobila says, hi, signed in from Spain. Wow. My goodness. We got Arash from India. What's going on? Fabricio, hi, hello. Not eating too much, working on the problem to not eat too much food. but supply the minimum necessary to energy training. So I think I get that question. It's I wanna eat enough to be strong for my training, but I don't want to do too much.
Yep. Yeah. Yeah. That can be a common challenge, especially with endurance athletes. And there's the thought too that when you go out, that you've expended so many calories that now maybe you deserve that beer.
Eat all the donuts.
Yeah, exactly.
Oh man.
So yeah, that's definitely something that you want to fine tune.
We'll fine tune and get in there. Finally, we got our first U.S. person. We were sitting here. Actually, Kyle was Louisville. But we got Jamie from Philadelphia. What's up, Jamie? Sarah says, my friends and I are just starting to run. Any tips for complete newbies? Sarah, we got a lot of great stuff for you. We'll talk about some things today, so definitely stay on. But just know we have some great Couch to 5K workouts on our YouTube channel, as well as great beginner run workouts as well. Kyla's broadcasting on her Instagram over here. Oh man, I'm like totally hiding over here. What's up, guys? We'll get you in there. Maybe we could get this down.
There we go.
We'll get you in that way. That'll be very cool. And a few more things. We got Kieran. Hey guys, Kieran from Ireland. What's up? Gloria from Tennessee. Beautiful. Jamie, question on some marathon training. I love it. Michael, this comment's from Russia. How are you? We're doing all right. We had a worldwide audience today. How cool is that?
Yeah, this is amazing.
Tammy says hi from Colorado. Rio de Janeiro, Brazil. Fabricio, very cool.
82 degrees.
Comfortable 82 from Gloria.
That's great.
We got another from Brazil. You guys are incredible.
Korea.
Los Angeles, Jenny Wick, Adam Wurr, St. Louis, right on. What is that? Soren, hey from Denmark. I'm wondering about dosage of spirulina.
Ooh, that's an interesting one. Yeah.
Oh man, that is like so far beyond.
Yeah, that's pretty specific to an individual, and depending on what you're trying to do with it, what your goals are. So yeah, that's a good one. Spirulina can be great, and it depends on what you're using it for. That would be my thing. And so it's.
Can we talk about what spirulina is?
So yeah, spirulina you can get it from an algae or the chlorella you can get from any dark leafy green, and there's studies that say that it can help with oxidative stress. It can help with actually aerobic capacity. So there's those aspects.
Can I ask another question?
Yeah.
I'm gonna ask a lot of questions today. This is my opportunity as well. What is oxidative stress?
So yeah, that's a good question. So oxidative stress, if we have free radicals being released, and essentially it gets down to the molecular level and the oxygen molecule and either losing or obtaining electrons, and that's when there becomes a free radical, and that we want to kind of tone that down, because when the oxygen molecule becomes imbalanced, it can kind of start bouncing around and doing all kinds of.
So you could say that this is part of the bucket of inflammation that one would experience after workouts.
Yeah.
And there are different ways to help with that inflammation. Nutritionally is one of them, and spirulina specifically helps with this oxidative stress. You can
help with that, yeah.
Gotcha.
Yeah.
That's cool. I'm going to learn something new every day. Well, guys, it's just after noon, so we are officially going to kick things off, even though we just kind of technically got in here with Kyla. Super excited to have Kyla Channell on here. She is the owner of nutritional-revolution.com. I believe you got a link down in the comments, so make sure you check her out. She offers some great, in-depth one-on-one nutritional services on, everything from weight loss to establishing a fueling plan if you're a more serious athlete. And she's worked with some really, really fantastic people in the past. She had a long time, I don't know what I want to call it, partnership, mentor, mentee with Stacy Sims, Dr. Stacy Sims, and she is one of the pioneers in terms of female nutrition, but hydration in general.
Hydration, and gender differences or sex differences between when it comes to performance and how we are different in that aspect. We are different.
We are different. So it's not just. I love her catchphrase, women are not small men.
Exactly, yeah.
So should females be drinking the same thing as men? So what are some of the differences? What are some of the things you learned? And before we go into that real quick, I just want to give us a shout out. Guys, in the description, there is a Gleam link. You can just hit that link And that is how you enter our giveaway that's going to happen at the end of this hour. You have the ability to get a free month of the training club from the Run Experience, where you could test drive any of our programs for a full month and get coaching from us. And combined with that, you are going to get a nutrition performance template from Kyla. And the cool thing about this template is it's going to be built around what you want to accomplish. So we're going to give 2 of these away. You get 2 package deals, pretty sweet. Yeah. So make sure you click that Gleam link. It gives you a few quick, easy steps to follow, and we can get you in there, and then we will call you out at the end of the hour.
Awesome.
Cool.
Yeah.
So let's jump back in with that, that question in terms of, we were kind of talking about the differences between men and women and some of the things you learned working with Dr. Stacey Sims.
Yeah. So it's pretty amazing. And a lot of Stacey's work was, geared towards a woman. She is a woman. She wants to know more about herself. And of course, I'm totally on board with that because I'm a woman. So it's super exciting for me and super exciting for me to share with women. Not that none of this stuff will apply to men, but there's definitely some things that need to be tweaked. So,
what are some of the differences, so for the people who are new listening, they're like, okay, I hear you there. Yeah. How does that apply to me, right? Let's say I'm a new, female runner, like maybe in their 30s and their 40s, training for the first half marathon. Like, what are some potential things that she would want to pay attention to? And that we don't always necessarily hear? Yeah,
good question. So if you are a female in your 30s or 40s, right?
Asking for a friend.
Yeah, right. Some things that you might want to pay attention to and kind of think about is that as a female, obviously we have our monthly menstrual cycle, and our hormones are fluctuating through all of that. And so as we approach our menstrual cycle and say we're 1 to 2 weeks out, that's when most of us start to experience those PMS symptoms, if you will. And so essentially we're in a high hormone phase. And when we're in this higher hormone phase, we actually have a much harder time cooling ourselves off. We have a harder time accessing glycogen. We have a harder time hitting higher intensities.
Interesting.
So it's a really important that you not only plan your nutrition properly around this and hydration around this as well, but
so hard time cooling yourselves off. So you're during warmer months, especially, that gets difficult. Harder times accessing glycogen, which are those like readily available fuel stores that a lot of us rely on, especially as the intensity goes up.
Exactly.
So those are really combined.
Yeah.
And then the third one was
high intensity, which in turn
was the high intensity. That's right.
Yeah. And there's many more, of course, as well. But those are definitely some factors to pay attention to. And if you have someone programming for you or giving you a training schedule, it's important to notice that, hey, I'm a week out from my menstrual cycle and I have some interval or hill sprints today or something, and you feel like you're just not where you used to be, a couple weeks ago. And so that's important to pay attention to. And there's ways you can kind of help counteract that if you still need to do those high intensity, sprints, or use your training in kind of work with your cycle in that way.
So what would be, because I always love to talk in the general aspects for you guys, but then I always like to anchor it with 1 or 2 specifics. So let's say we're in that situation. What might be 1 or 2 of those little adjustments that you would give that runner that would help them?
So 30 to 40-year-old runner, close to your menstrual cycle, you do have to do your hill sprints today. There's no way around it. I would say make sure your hydration is on point. So, don't go into that workout, dehydrated. If it's the first thing in the morning, try and get some fluids in, ideally some electrolytes. I would like to see that. Or if you still have to do that and you need to hit those intensities, if you can bring with you either some dextrose tablets or something that's very quick digesting form of glucose. Those you can just kind of pop under your tongue or chew, and they digest actually in your mouth.
Okay, so interesting. So you're just recognizing that you can't normally get that glucose, so you're basically supplementing with a little bit extra.
Yeah, you can,
Would a gel work?
It's a good question. So I'm not a huge fan of gels just because they can cause some mad GI distress.
Okay.
But with that being said, everybody is quite unique. So
Yeah.
I've worked with athletes who are like, all I use is gels and I've never had any GI
Yeah.
issues. I'm like, fantastic. Like,
Yeah.
you found something that works for you. Generally speaking, it does cause some GI issues. So in the scenario that you were to use a gel, because that's
Yeah.
obviously quite easy and portable, I would say use it and kind of sip out of it slowly.
Small things
Yeah,
as opposed to
instead of
slam the whole.
Right.
So you just need a little bit. You don't need
Yeah.
to go insane.
Right. And
Interesting.
so if you look at the kind of the nutrition breakdown of a gel, for example, versus like say shot blocks, one gel packet is equivalent to 3 shot blocks.
Mm-hmm.
So if you think about consuming 3 shot blocks, you're chewing those very slowly. You're taking them one at a time, and it's causing a slower release essentially down into the system.
So you like, I kind of like the shot blocks too, which are the gummies, if you guys have seen those. So you kind of prefer the shot block style gummies as a better
slower,
vehicle
steady. Yeah, exactly.
than the gel itself.
Yeah. The
Right
gels
on.
can be quite concentrated.
I love that. Well, that's really cool. So we got a little bit there. That's definitely interesting. Let's go through some different questions here. You guys are hearing our mighty mascot bark in the background. Hey, Nora. Hey. Don't be a jerk. So we're getting some different good questions here, guys. I want to start with a lot of like nutrition and fueling stuff with Kyla. We've got some other great questions in here. Maybe we could go into Fabricia's questions here. Hi all. How to solve the problem to not eat too much food, stay soft, but supply the minimum necessary for energy. And maybe we could actually talk about how your template might work with this.
Yeah. So it's important. I mean, with the template that Nate's talking about, is that it's going to break down kind of different types of training and how you should fuel around that. So, for example, if you are only going to be out for an hour or less, or maybe you're going to be out for a couple hours or even more than that, or maybe you have a double day and you're doing, a shorter interval session, either later in the day and a lower steady state in the morning or something like that. I see that often, how you can fuel around that and how that fueling will change. So I think a lot of people think that they can just eat the same amount like every day, and whether their training fluctuates or not. And it's definitely one way to do it. But if you want to make sure that you're recovering properly and replacing either those glycogen stores that you went through, giving yourself enough protein to provide muscular recovery.
Yeah, so there's going to be kind of a rise and fall with things, right?
Yeah.
And that probably naturally happens to a degree. I know when I go after some of my, like I did some harder intervals yesterday. I got a good 7 miles. So my average pace was faster, and I found myself a little hungrier the rest of the day. That was good.
Yeah.
So what about this notion of overindulging, right? Like we train, we deserve to have, whatever we want, right? Isn't that how this works?
Yeah. So that
all the beer, all the everything.
Yeah, the beer is actually not a great recovery.
Oh, don't tell me that. Don't tell me that.
I get that all the time. Unfortunately, beer is not the best go-to for recovery, as well as sleep too. So that's an important time when we're recovering during our body. But yeah, there is those rise and falls, and kind of working with that is important, and getting that right program for you and your goals, and what you're trying to do. Are you trying to improve performance? Are you trying to lose body fat with your running? All those will kind of change based on what those goals are for you.
Yeah. So let's say, because I love to go down some of these paths, like let's say someone is trying to lose weight, right? And this is probably a common thing because with a lot of our runners, they're using running not only as a way to, enjoy the outdoors, feel better, but they're sort of using it as a vehicle for weight loss.
Yeah.
So let's say someone is training for that half marathon and they're trying to lose weight while they're training for the half.
Yeah.
That obviously gets hard because the increased demands of training kind of make sure that we need to eat well to be strong for that. But like, how do you navigate those types of conversations?
Yeah. And then too, with something, with a lot of aerobic training too, you're causing your body to be more metabolically efficient too, right? So
that's an irony, right? So the more you guys run, the more efficient you become metabolically, which basically means that you're not expending as much energy per mile than you did when you first started.
Totally.
Right?
Yeah.
So you can actually run longer and do more on less.
Right. Yeah.
Man, that is just not another good thing for the beer column.
Yeah. So with something like that where you are trying to lose weight and you you feel like you can just go for it. It's most people these days are have Apple Watches and are tracking or some form that's kind of giving them some calculation, like, hey, you expended X number of calories while you were doing this, you hit this heart rate, etc. Those are always really helpful tools, but it's also important to remember that while you were doing that hour running session, say you expended 600, 700 calories, you would have probably already expended, just sitting on the couch, 100 of those. So that's also something to be mindful of. It doesn't mean you can go out and replace 700
for
calories.
The couch right there.
Yeah. So
man, I could just burn calories sitting on the couch. This is great.
Roughly speaking. So so that's something to be mindful of, and loading up on just veggies throughout the day is going to be huge, and making sure that.
So what is it about veggies that are helpful? Is it just like colorful, tastes good, kind of filling?
Yeah. It's all of those.
Yeah.
The filling aspect is really helpful because you can, become ravenous when you come back from a run or something like that, a long training session. And so making sure that you're giving yourself the fiber, so long as it doesn't cause you any GI issues, you're not consuming it too close to your long run or something like that, right? But making sure that you're filling yourself up, but also providing all those micronutrients. That's really important to help with our recovery too. So, getting those throughout the day is
and
huge.
Micronutrients are some of
our vitamins and minerals. Macronutrients are those just typical carbs, fats, proteins, and micros are those veggies we want to get. Sorry, micronutrients are those vitamins and minerals, and we want to get those in.
That helps with the immune system and
Absolutely.
other things like that.
Yeah.
So, we're getting some good questions in here. So Elizabeth Day, who's, longtime Training Club member, what's up, Elizabeth, says, how would we work keto around our cycle? And this is kind of going back to our earlier conversation about some of the nutritional differences and demands between men and women. I know a lot of you guys are interested in the keto style diet. For those of you guys who don't know, do you want to explain kind of what the keto style diet is?
So the keto diet, you're essentially doing, very low carbohydrate. You have a higher protein, higher fat intake, and you're trying to keep those insulin levels really low. So some people go to the extreme where they're testing themselves, throughout the day,
and it's kind of like the opposite of like the sugar rush and crash we get when we're on the gels. So when we're on the gels all the time, we're like, I'm good, I'm terrible, I'm good, I'm terrible,
right.
And it can play havoc on your stomach. So this idea of becoming a more fat-adapted athlete gives you much more steady energy throughout the day.
Yeah, so
crashes.
So when we look at the studies regarding keto, there's obviously studies saying that we have much more fat on our body than we can store in glycogen stores, and so because of that, there's more calories, and we can essentially run off of fats or body fat too for a longer period of time than we would be able to versus just muscle glycogen or even liver glycogen, and that is in fact true. So, but when it comes to the female and the female cycle and these high hormone phases and being in a restricted carbohydrate state, it can be a bit challenging. And it all depends on your goals too, why you're doing keto, right? So are you doing keto because you want to lose weight? Are you doing keto for long-term health? Those are all factors obviously that come into play with this. But working with keto, I do work with keto athletes, and something to do if you are around your cycle is my keto athletes that I've worked with will do some additional carbohydrates to kind of help during your cycle, but specifically tailored around your training. You're not going and having pasta at dinner and you ran in the morning. You're specifically doing your higher bits of carbs around those trainings.
Just around the training to support the training, and then you're
exactly.
trying to go less fat, more fat around the thing. That's cool.
Yeah.
And I think, Athena here, might be a follow-up, says, I'm sorry, my question was not complete. I don't want necessarily to lose weight. I want to maintain my weight during training.
And she was the keto question?
No, I think that was an earlier one. I know, this is the fun part of YouTube. It's like 10 conversations in a go. Tony chimes in a little while ago, said, my morning breakfast every day is overnight oats with chia seeds, bee pollen, just dropping that on there, blueberries and cinnamon, love it and recommend it.
That sounds awesome. I would eat that.
What does the bee pollen do? Is the bee pollen sweet?
It has a little bit of sweetness. It's, if you haven't seen it, it might surprise you on top of your food because it's like little kind of they almost look fuzzy, but they're just like little granules of yellow flecks almost. But bee pollen is going to give you all kinds of delicious stuff, but also it's similar to honey in the sense we're providing you with natural pollens from the environment if you are someone who has seasonal allergies or something like that.
Yeah, because I've heard that local honey can really help with seasonal allergies. That's super cool.
Yeah.
David asks earlier, and guys, there should be maybe, there's probably like a 30-second delay or so, plus or minus. I'm scrolling through some of the questions. There's so many questions and comments. We can't get to everything super live in the mid-time, so we're scrolling through and get some other ones. So David says, I love the short ones. Beet juice. Helpful?
That's a good, that's straightforward. So beet juice.
Good or bad? Beet juice.
The beet juice is blowing up right now too. And
man, if you are a beet farmer, if you are Dwight Schrute from The Office, you are rubbing your hands very excitedly.
So there are, what we've seen is short-term benefits in an athlete with beet juice, specifically because of that nitric oxide. It's increasing or vasodilating or increasing your blood vessels, so there's quicker delivery of oxygen, nutrients to the working muscle.
So what does that translate to? So does that mean someone who takes some beet juice and they get that vasodilation, does it make the same effort feel easier? Does it allow them to potentially run a little faster at the same effort? Like what?
So with beet juice, what it will do is it might make some people feel a little kind of like amped up a little bit. If any of you guys have ever used beta-alanine, it's a similar effect. You might get that nitric oxide.
I want to introduce this wonderful thing to you guys called coffee.
Yeah, coffee is actually a vasoconstrictor.
Interesting.
Yes, but it does help with delaying our feelings of fatigue while training. So something like beta-alanine or the beet juice is vasodilating, opening those blood vessels and getting quicker delivery of essentially fuel to your working muscle tissue, you will be able to essentially go for a little bit longer. It's more of you notice it kind of immediately when you start to go. My one thing with beet juice is that the long-term studies looking at beet juice, because it's causing this vasodilation, if someone's a very regular user, it can cause some issues with your body constricting and opening of the blood vessels. So it's
almost like it's doing it too much.
Mm-hmm. Yeah, so it's something that you want to use, definitely not,
Now, if I were to eat beets in dinner, like my wife and I cook, and sometimes we got beets in every once in a while, am I going to get that same vasodilation, or does it need to be such a concentrated, massive source of beet juice?
That's a good question.
For this to really happen?
So the studies looked at concentrated beet juice or even
so yes, I like that Kyla is actually mentioning studies here. There's a lot of stuff online that we're just sort of spouting off, and Kyla has done her research and her chops, so when she's speaking here, it's actually from something that's been tested, which is actually really nice and refreshing.
Yeah. So, you got to look at the research. So the research did look at, and I'm sure there's probably others that I haven't read yet because there's so many out there, but they were looking at either juiced beets or concentrated beet juice. So that's what they were looking at. If you are consuming like a steamed beet or a boiled beet or something like that, my assumption or guess would be that there's fiber in there that's going to slow down that effect you would feel if it was something like a liquid concentrated beet juice. There's even beet powder too.
That you can mix in and everything. Yeah. So if one were to do it, like what would be the dosage and when would you want to add it in? Like would I be consuming beet juice while, that sounds so clinical, consuming beet juice while I'm actually on the run itself, or is this like, take this 30 minutes from your start?
Yeah, that's a great question. It's something you want to do definitely pre. I don't think you want to be running and spilling like red beet juice all over your face. Someone's going to freak out on the sidewalk. But yeah, definitely before. I would say 15 to 30 minutes. Play with it. Everybody's a little bit different, in their tolerance. So to like something like beta-alanine, some people will start to feel like almost like itching a little bit. It's because all those finer blood vessels are opening up. Usually people feel it in their face and their neck. Yeah, sometimes their hands.
Oh, that's trippy.
Yeah, so if you go too high, you should start to feel some little bit of tingling, but if you go too high, you'll probably know, but you essentially do want to feel some bit of tingling.
That's cool.
And work your way up to that dosing.
Yeah, guys, if you're joining, we're going kind of ham on beet juice right now, and we're digging in deep. This is all about our session today with Kyla Channell, who's the owner of Nutritional Revolution, is to go deep on your nutrition and hydration questions. We see some other strength and injury prevention stuff in there. We'll try to get to a few of those, but today is all about that food and that hydration. So keep asking your questions there, and we're going to go into it. Because we're doing a live giveaway at the end of the hour. If you're just tuning in, hit that Gleam link down in the description, and you'll be able to not only get a free month of training from yours truly through the training club, but on top of that, you're going to get a performance nutrition template from Kyla that is going to be suited for your nutritional needs.
Yeah.
And we're going to give these away to 2 lucky people. So we got this little package deal, training club, plus the nutrition template, and that's going to be for one giveaway winner, and we're going to do another one for another giveaway winner. So get in there, make sure that happens. We're going to go back to questions. This is from Tammy Adkins. She says, this is a great question, right? Because carb loading is such a loaded term, excuse the pun, and she's looking for carb loading ideas for marathon training.
Yeah, that's a really good question, and I get that a lot, and I think there's a lot of talk about carb loading, and yeah, that's one where I would say when you are training for something like a marathon, typically you're going to taper the week prior, maybe even 2 weeks prior to your race. So with that being said, what I generally recommend to my athletes is that you actually follow the same food protocol and that you were consuming when you were at a higher training volume, but because you're naturally tapering down your training and still consuming that same food amount, you're essentially doing an unintended carb loading that way instead of doing like a night before carb loading, which actually can make you feel bloated and pull in more water, and that can make you feel heavier for your run. And so kind of some negative things can go on if you really quickly carb load 24 hours before or something like that.
Yeah, that's really interesting. This notion of just kind of shoehorning as much pasta as we can in the night before. You still see it a lot of races. It's fun to have that communal meal, but it can sort of mess things up a little bit. And your point on if we've done a taper before the week before our race, which means that we've stair-stepped our volume and intensity down a little bit, we naturally don't need to eat as much as we have in previous weeks of hard training.
Right.
But we still kind of eat a little bit, so we're kind of in essence carb loading then, is what you're saying.
Yeah, you wouldn't want to essentially taper your carb intake at least.
Yeah.
I wouldn't do your protein either, but yeah, you would want to follow a similar protocol that you were following before, and you may not feel as hungry because you're not training as hard, but you still should be kind of consuming up at that level to do an unintentional carb load.
And so basically by kind of keeping things consistent and not going over, you're in essence, topping off those glycogen stores.
Yep.
Can we say why carb loading is important? I know some of you guys know this, but some of you guys may not. There's something about carb loading or just eating prior to the race that when we go into that race, we want our fuel stores to be topped off. And I just wanted you to talk a little bit about the glycogen stores, how much stores we have in our body, and why we want to top it off.
Yeah. I mean, so when we do, kind of like I mentioned with the keto, is with glycogen, you can only run for so long on glycogen stores, right? We have so much in our muscle, and we have a little bit in our liver as well, and then, we have our body fat. So something like a marathon where it's taking you, several hours to complete, when we kind of get right off the start line, the metabolic engines that we're starting to kind of tap into are going to be those glycogen stores first. And then, once we've run out of those, then our body's going to go for that body fat or any fat that we've consumed either that morning or that we're consuming on course.
And there's one question that says, how good is your body at that transition from one to the other?
Yeah.
And then the other part is, because we have limited glycogen stores, we want to make sure those stores are topped off when we start that race so that we are good to go.
Essentially your muscles are ready to go and have that fuel to really quickly pull from. So the glycogen is glucose that you've consumed from a carbohydrate source. And that just essentially is going to get stored in your muscle. And then if you consume more than your body needs, it's going to be converted into fatty acids. And then those fatty acids can be stored as fat. And so, topping those off is just providing your body essentially with all the fuel that you can really hold in your body before you go into a race. And then of course, as you start going through your race, you're consuming some things, trying to minimize those losses or give your body some quick fuel to kind of pull from the bloodstream once it gets digested.
Yeah.
So.
There's an interesting thing. I remember reading about this a little while ago. This is my turn to get a little question in. How there was basically by taking some sort of like sports kind of carbohydrate drink, maybe Gatorade or not Gatorade, and you actually don't swallow it, but you swirl it around and swish in your mouth and spit it out. Mm-hmm. That has some kind of an effect.
Yeah, so something like Gatorade, is very concentrated, really, and it's actually quite concentrated for any of our GI systems while we're training. But swishing something around like that has those sugars in there, we can start digesting and absorbing sugars in our mouth. So whereas like fats and proteins it starts breaking down and absorbing much further down in the digestive tract. So something like that, just swishing around, is kind of similar to those dextrose tablets that I was talking about, that you can start digesting in the mouth, and it's not going to have an effect on your GI system if you are someone who's gets those symptoms when you're training or racing.
That's interesting. So we got a good question here from Aaron. Can you drink just water and not lose on any health benefits?
Good question.
That might be one, maybe Aaron is talking about not only just day to day, but also maybe from a training standpoint as well. Yeah. And this is probably a good way to talk about hydration and what's actually needed in hydration in addition to just water.
Right. So, as far as health benefits go, water is fantastic, but then when you put that performance and athletic side to it, where you're sweating more, you're trying to get fuel into your body and use that fuel in your body while you're exercising. And two, it depends on how long you're training for, or how long your race is going to take you. I would recommend some form of electrolytes, depending on where you're getting your water from. Is it, tap water? Is it mineral water? There's different benefits there as well. But daily hydration, throughout the day is fantastic. Water is great especially if you already are someone who, consumes a lot of meals out or is salting your food regularly. Consuming just plain water on the regular might be fine. And if you have a shorter training session, some people, might not even take any fluids, or maybe they will just bring water because they had, a salad with a bunch of olives or something earlier.
Now, I know sometimes the knock on water, it's funny to trash water, but sometimes it's just it doesn't have any flavor and it's not the most inspiring thing to drink.
Yeah.
One of the things that I like to do, I always get a bunch of lemons and limes, and then I leave them all around our kitchen counter, which my wife really loves. But I will, take a wedge and spritz that into a glass of water, and I'll drink that first thing in the morning. And I just sort of that little citrus is just so nice.
Yeah.
I'm thinking about it right now. I could use some lemon water.
Yeah.
But it's such a nice thing. And there's some interesting things there too, right? Doesn't the citrus in there affect your pH levels? Or it does something?
It does. Yeah, it definitely does something. So you can kind of do
other than taste good.
Right. You can do your own kind of at-home hydration product too that does contain the juice of a lemon or a lime. And you're actually going to want to add a little bit of a pinch of either pink Himalayan salt, and actually a little dab of maple syrup. And the reason why we do that is from the citrus itself, you're actually getting, you're getting citric acid, but you're also getting some potassium, you're getting some vitamin C from that.
Oh, cool.
Potassium, of course, is one of our electrolytes. And then from the maple syrup, you're getting some sugars that actually are necessary to help pull those electrolytes through the intestinal barrier and, go in and hydrate you. And then pink Himalayan salt, sodium. And then there's also, because it's pink Himalayan salt, there's also a lot of vitamins and minerals in there too.
Versus a regular salt.
Yeah,
so that
versus a table salt.
Super salt.
Yeah.
Super
exactly.
salt. I like that.
Yeah.
That's cool. And literally a little drop of something like maple syrup.
Yep.
And you like maple syrup because it's
I like maple syrup compared to honey or agave because it's more glucose based, as opposed to if you look at honey or agave, it's more fructose based. And fructose is actually not very easily utilized. So it actually is metabolized by the liver, gets converted into fatty acids, and then we have to turn it back into glucose or glycogen to be utilized. Whereas
Interesting.
maple syrup is just immediate glucose.
Oh yeah,
which is nice.
Give me that
quick
maple
stuff.
syrup.
Yeah.
Okay, so we lost beer, but we gained maple syrup.
Yes.
So like net, we're doing okay for the
Yes.
day. That's really, really cool. Speaking of salt, we had a good question on salt tablets. Lisa says, what are your thoughts on salt tablets for marathon training? Guys, I like going in a little deep. I'm trying to choose some questions that I think a lot of you guys would be curious about. And then what we'll do is try to do some kind of faster responses just to make sure that you guys, are really good. And then there are different ways to get in touch with Kyla after this. And, maybe we can even have you make sure you're following Kyla on Instagram and you can, message her directly or comment on her thing. She does some different live stuff there. Yeah. And then you could get some good questions there. Awesome. So in terms of salt tablets for marathon training, what are you, yay or nay?
That's a tricky one. So I like to say that if your hydration isn't on point, you don't need salt tablets. But with that being said, again, everybody is very unique. I've worked with a lot of athletes that, they're seriously heavy sweaters. There's salt crystals drying all over them when they're done with, a normal training session. What's a marathon going to do to them in that scenario? And so there's ways to get your sweat rate tested. I would say with the science, we're not fully there yet with determining each individual's specific sweat rate, but it is a good starting place.
I remember a couple of years ago, I did this with one of my first coaches out here in California, where we, it was pretty old school. Like he just brought a track down, he brought a scale down to the track, and we did a 30-minute time trial, and we were doing that to test some other things. But he had us stand on the scale with whatever we were wearing, because it didn't matter. The absolute way we were looking at was the change from before and after. And then basically, step on the scale afterwards. And I was stunned. I mean, I think I'm in a heavier sweat category. Let's slow that down for a second. But I think I lost like 3 or 4 pounds. And at the time, I only weighed 160. So it was like, I feel like I lost a lot.
Yeah. It's pretty amazing. I had an athlete contact me the other day, and he's like, I lost 9 pounds when I went on my hour-and-a-half run. And so it's
whoa.
Yeah, and so there's definitely some factors at play there. I mean, it depends on, when you're doing something like that, make sure to take into consideration, did you consume any fluids while you were on your run? You have to take that kind of, do a little math there, right? Were you on a longer run? Did you use the restroom? Like, those are all things that are going to play into that, but it's a good starting point. And weight loss like that is common. But then at the same time, we also want to minimize those losses the best we can. Yeah. When we are doing a training session where we're consuming fluids and electrolytes, we want to be making sure we're trying to minimize those losses the best we can. So
interesting. That's cool. So back to the salt. So it can be helpful in certain circumstances. Let's say someone is getting ready for a fall marathon. Like New York is coming up. It's a little cooler. Yeah. Still important in the cool weather?
Again, it's very unique. So if it's a cooler environment, and if it's a female, it sounded like that was a female who asked that question, at least.
I think it was.
Skiver. Yeah. So depending too where you are in your menstrual cycle. So again, with females, we have a harder time cooling ourselves, and that's because we have lower body water, and we're releasing less of that on the surface of our skin to cool ourselves. So hydration is huge there, and making sure that you are on top of that. Maybe salt tablets would be something you would want to use there, or something like a preload formula that I think like Osmo and I think Scratch does, and you can get something like that to top off those sodium stores prior to, so like the night before you have a race.
I've used that for some races. Interesting. So guys, Osmo Nutrition and Scratch Labs are 2 really excellent brands out there. They offer great products on hydration. They don't do as much energy bars. They're really specializing. They're starting to.
I think was it Scratch has.
They might be starting to do some gels and foods, but
like goos.
Their primary thing was these incredible hydration products, and they have something called a preload, which was just a little bit more concentrated.
A lot more concentrated. Some people can't tolerate it. I've heard back from a few of my clients where they're like, it tastes like I was chugging down salt water or seawater. So
it's almost like not just carb loading. It's almost like electrolyte loading.
Exactly.
And doing that before, especially during a really hot day.
Yep. Yeah.
That's interesting.
Or if you're going to be training at elevation too, or more humid environment, or like I said, if you're a female close to your menstrual cycle, those are all going to be huge times to kind of stay on top of that.
I love it. Let's go down here. Some of you guys are interested on the intermittent fasting. Halder says, hey, any thoughts on intermittent fasting and running?
It's a good question too. So yeah, it's again,
you want to say what I always like to, because some people ask these questions, but there's probably a bigger group that doesn't know what the question is. So it's like, what is intermittent fasting for people to know?
So intermittent fasting is going, longer periods, obviously without consuming food. We're fasting. And then it sounds like he's training while he's in his fasted state. And so a lot of people are into, I think it's like the 18 and 6 window, and then maybe the 16 and 8. So 16 hours of fasting, and then you have an 8-hour window where you can consume your calories, or the opposite of that, 18 hours where you're fasting, and then you have 6-hour window to consume your daily caloric intake. And so with intermittent fasting, a lot of people will pair intermittent fasting with something like keto. Not everybody does, but that's a popular trend right now. And so with something like that, if you are going to train while you're fasted, that's fine by me. I might recommend either doing maybe some essential amino acids or branched chain amino acids prior to going out on your run, still staying on top of hydration. I know there's some sugars in there, so that might, that might break your fast to you. Some people say they're fasting when they have, bulletproof coffee, but there's like
a lot of butter,
700 calories of butter in there.
That's not really fasting.
So it depends on how you define
fast. Which is like how you define paleo.
Right.
Which is, I don't eat any sugar, and you're like, except Oreos.
Exactly.
But I don't eat sugar.
Yeah.
All right.
Yeah.
Yeah, that is interesting. So we're getting towards then, guys. We got about 20 minutes left, so we do this giveaway. If you're just tuning in, make sure you click that link down in the description, and you'll be able to enter to win one of 2 package deals: 1 month of free experience, any program you want to do, coaching and support from us, along with a performance nutrition template from Kyla Channell of Nutritional Revolution. Is it Nutrition Revolution?
Nutritional Revolution.
Nutritional Revolution.
Yeah.
I got it. That's cool. I have a friend who actually had Original Nutritionals website for a while. Yeah, it's kind of cool. So Nutritional Revolution, customized for what you need. We're going to do 2 packages away, and it's going to happen in about 18 minutes. So make sure you get on there. Let's go through some questions. We'll try to go through a little faster. I know this is hard with some of these technical things. You guys are asking such great stuff. Really short thing. This is going to be a challenge. Is zone dieting good for the long run? This is from Smartest Egg.
Yeah. So I actually, depending on how you mean that, right? So if zone diet, you're doing that kind of outside of your training and consuming these mixed macronutrient meals. So meaning you're, every time you sit down to eat, you're consuming some protein, some carbs, some fats. I love that. I think that's fantastic. Do you specifically have to do it with the zone portions and the blocks? I don't know if that's fully necessary, but some people really like that direction. So yeah, I think that's fantastic. I love that you're getting some veggies into with really almost all of those
right
meals.
So it's getting you to think about eating there.
Yeah.
Jack Colville says, any thoughts on using L-carnitine or carotene?
Carnitine. Yeah.
I feel like I've seen that on a label somewhere on the back.
Yeah, that's in a lot of added supplements. I would
what does it do? What's it supposed to do?
That's a good question. I'd have to look that one. That one's blanking my mind right now. I feel like
no, that's all right.
I know it. I think it has something to do with I think it affects one of our amino acids. I think.
No worries, Jack. We'll get back to you on that one, and we'll see if it jogs your memory. No worries. There's so many things to know in this world. Romulo Tom chimes in. I use salt pills for every long run. L-carnitine before every training. Okay, so he's plugged in.
Yeah.
Peelan says, is it a good idea to take creatine? I'm used to using it for lifting, but heard it can be good for running too. Romulo chimes in, and I think this is interesting. Although it is not scientifically proven, some say it might help you burn fat. I think that's creatine. Creatine is not the best option for endurance athletes, though, due to its water retention.
Yeah, so it depends too on there's different forms of creatine. So there's, creatine monohydrate is kind of the big one. That does absolutely cause some water retention. And in some it causes GI distress as well. So there's, I think it's crealkaline now is an alternative. I think it's like a more micro molecular form of it, and it doesn't seem to pull in as much water and has less GI effects.
And what does creatine do for runners? Why would someone want to take it in the gym? Is this a muscle building type of supplement?
Yeah, so, I wouldn't call it muscle building, but it does kind of decrease our time to fatigue in something like if you are weight training, that like last rep on the bench or something like that might help you kind of get through that a little bit better because you have those creatine stores in your muscle.
Okay, and so basically, that just allows you to train a little bit more. Yeah. And then you benefit from that.
Yeah, and I do have endurance athletes who do use creatine. There's, it's important depending on, again, what form you're using and are you cycling it? Are you, how are you using it?
Cycling it might be you're taking it for shorter focus periods and then you're off of it.
Mm-hmm. Yeah, and there's, different studies, depending on what you want for that, going back and forth.
Totally interesting. You guys are full of great questions today. Holler asks, does the quinine in the tonic water actually help in muscle cramps after the run or at night?
That's a good question. I haven't seen any studies on that yet. In regards to muscle cramps, though, a big contributor that
we haven't really talked about muscle cramps yet.
That's a big
always
one.
a
That's
topic.
A really big one. Is what I find is that it can be either a few things. It can be hydration, but also it can be lack in magnesium. So magnesium is something that we get from our dark green leafy vegetables, and a lot of us tend to be low in that kind of stuff. So doing a magnesium supplement, particularly in the evening, can be really helpful because it can also help you feel relaxed. So don't do it in the morning with your coffee when you're trying to get ready to go out the door. It might kind of mellow you down a little bit, but that's usually a huge factor. And anything with magnesium, you always want to start yourself slow with that because it actually can cause diarrhea, and you don't want that. So work your way up to a dose.
Yeah, work your way up. I love that. Cameron asks, what are some good anti-inflammatory foods or drinks for after hard efforts and race recovery? That's a great question.
That is a really good question. So
not beer, unfortunately.
Right. Not beer. I would shoot for, as far as anti-inflammation goes, I think a lot of people think that that's kind of paired with antioxidants as well, and there's definitely there is some truth to that for sure. So kind of with that being said, actually with a lot of my endurance athletes, and especially when you're doing aerobic training versus anaerobic, so if you're doing a longer steady state session versus either intervals or maybe you're doing a strength session, I would say post an aerobic session, antioxidants are not actually a great idea because they're actually blunting your body's ability to adapt to that aerobic session. So I would wait, 2 hours about before you start kind of loading yourself up with those high antioxidant containing foods, berries, dark leafy greens, things like that.
So you'd wait 1 or 2 hours.
Yeah, I would.
And what would you focus on in the short term instead?
I would focus on replacing your glycogen stores, so some carbohydrates, depending on how long you were training for.
Yeah.
Maybe a little bit of fat in there, and then definitely some protein, getting some amino acids in you.
Yeah.
Whether it's the form of whole food or if you only have access to a shake and you can't get something in within 30 minutes to an hour, that works too.
Interesting.
Yeah.
That's cool. I know that Lisa posts, I think, on our Facebook feed, also had that question there. I'm trying to pull up some of those comments so that we can see them. She was asking about anti-inflammatory food. Let's see here. Jane says, I love you, Kyla.
Yay!
Isn't she great? Bob asks, and this might have been earlier, what's Kyla's opinion on taking coconut oil during the long run?
That's a good question. So something like any type of long run, and by long run, I'm thinking you're talking maybe 2, maybe even more hours than that, or even like a marathon scenario. When we go into any type of scenario like that where we're going to be sweating, we're going to be losing a lot of water, it's going to be a harder training session, we're going to be trying to minimize those losses obviously by hydrating, but we also need to consume some food because we're going to burn through our stores, right? So in that scenario, your GI system is better prepared in the earlier sessions of that for things like fats and protein. And carbs, of course, as well. Those are going to be the slower digesters. So if you are going out, I would recommend consuming that coconut oil, or a lot of people will do like those nut butter packets, like we were talking about.
Is that just because you just have like more blood around your small intestine at the time?
Yeah. And so there's more essentially fluids in your body. So if we start to become dehydrated and our body's really focusing on, hey, we got to get these nutrients to those working muscle cells, and they're like and you're jobbling around, right? And your stomach's bouncing up and down. And it's usually when you're doing anything like that, the blood is going away from the GI system,
so
right?
So when you're in that more taxed and stressed state, your body becomes way less tolerant of being able to, digest all that crazy stuff.
Your body's, not only is your body shutting that signaling off, but it's also not directing blood and fluids to the GI system to get those nutrients and then pull them back to the working muscle tissue. So as we start to become more dehydrated as we get further into the race, that's when you kind of want to, or training, that's when you want to swap to something that's going to be easier to digest, like those carbohydrates, or just much smaller portions of protein and fats.
I love that. That is so good. Tony asks about bone broth. We kind of talk about different things.
Yeah.
What do you think about bone broth for joint recovery?
Yeah, that's a really good one. So in terms of just like your bone broth that you might get at like Whole Foods, for example, I would want to know more of like the actual what molecules are in there, but I do know that there was a study done recently that did look at endurance athletes and the consumption of actually collagen prior to training, and so they saw
collagen is a primary ingredient you will see in bone broth.
Exactly, and I think you can too get like powdered versions of collagen. Or they call it micronized blanking on that one, but collagen, and they consumed 15 grams of collagen 1 hour prior to their workout. And I think they did an hour training session. And they actually saw that there was tendon and joint repair going on, which is something that's like profound, because like
mind-blowing.
Yeah, because that's an area of the body where there's not a lot of blood flow going on there, and there's usually not a lot of repair that's ever happening.
In tendons and joints. And for those of you guys who are dealing with, the classic example might be, that Achilles injury, that Achilles is so stubborn to heal, one, because it's really hard to be off of it. We're always on it. And then it's hard to get blood flow down there.
Right, yeah.
So eating things, it's so interesting to look at things, because as a coach, I'm always looking at things from a mechanic standpoint. I want to solve your guys' problems with running technique, strength training, kind of lifestyle habits, how much we're sitting, we're standing, what shoes we're in, things like that. And those are the tools that I know.
Yeah.
And I know that nutrition is really important, but it's like, that's an interesting way to solve those problems as well. And they seem to me just like the other half of the coin.
Right. Yeah, it's a good pair.
It's a good little pair there.
Yeah, definitely.
That is so cool. Carrie says, hey, this has been so great. Can't we go another hour? What do you say?
Carrie.
I know. Yay, Carrie. I know. We'll have to have Kyla back for another hour. But speaking of, it's almost lunchtime for us. So we got a few more questions in here, guys. We are going to hit that Gleam giveaway in just under 8 minutes. Remember, we have a training club and custom performance nutrition giveaway worth $130 altogether. We're going to give this package away to 2 people. So make sure you click that Gleam link. Make sure you enter, and make sure you give yourself the chance to get connected. Of course, if you didn't make it, or you don't have time quite yet to jump in here, or doesn't happen, you can still check out Kyla on her channel, Nutritional Revolution. And what's your Instagram? How can they follow you there?
Nutritional Revolution.
At Nutritional Revolution?
Yeah.
So guys, I'm going to throw that in the comments just so you guys can follow. But we'll got a few more questions here. Gloria asks, what is the best food to refuel with after a long run?
Yeah, so great question. So with a long run, again, I'm assuming it's like 2+ hours at the minimum there. And again, you want to shoot for, again, some protein, replace those glycogen stores. And with a longer run, you can add in a minimal amount of fat. So I wouldn't go for more. Yes.
Perfect.
I wouldn't go for more than, 10 grams of fat. So that's going to be, a tablespoon or 2 of a nut butter or something like that. Adding into it. Yeah. So in the longer run, you've tapped potentially tap through your glycogen stores, and I've also accessed some fat, so you can replace that as well. But the thing with the fat is you don't want to go too much in it, because what it's going to do is it's a slower digester, so it's going to slow down the digestion and release of those protein and carbs that you're trying to get into your muscle tissue.
That's cool.
Yeah.
So good way to get some of that fat in and everything else. Aaron asked, how do you enter the giveaway? There's a link down in the description, guys, of the YouTube video. You click on it. It should take you to a glean.io page, and there's a way to enter. And there are different things you could do to get multiple entries, and then we are going to do the giveaway in a couple minutes. So make sure you jump in there. Let's see. Oh, Sam Smith's from our Facebook page. Mr. Sam, would you recommend energy drinks, glucose, refined sugar, or natural sugars and fruit juices for long run? Is there a difference in the speed your body metabolizes it? You guys are full of great questions.
Yeah, these are
today.
really
These
awesome questions, you guys. So yeah, Sam Smith, there is absolutely a difference in how those are going to metabolize. Something like a fruit juice is going to contain more fructose naturally, and
which is a little bit harder for your body to convert.
Exactly.
I'm learning.
Yeah. So similar to that, like we talked about with the honey and the agave, higher fructose containing things, they're actually metabolized in the liver and then get converted to fatty acids, and then those fatty acids, if we still need them, get converted back into glucose. So then it's something we can use. So it takes much longer to be utilized. So, something like orange juice is typically a little bit more glucose dominant, which is nice. But, other juices like, grape juice or apple juice or something like that might be less of a ratio. So it might be a little bit more challenging. But as far as energy drinks go too, there's not a lot of really good clean ones out there. So that's, I'd have to do a little product review or something before I suggest anything off the top of my head.
There's no specific ones, but it's sort of good to know in terms of there. That's so cool. Mm-hmm. This is good. Let me see here. We're going to go through a few different things here. Guys, a lot of great questions. We're going to do that giveaway in a second. We're trying to find maybe one or two more questions you could throw there. You guys have asked some really, really great stuff. I'm just scrolling up through the comments here. Carmela asks, eating a banana per day, what do you think?
I think it's great. It depends on where you time it. So banana is one of those fruits, too, that's actually more glucose dominant than fructose. So, so long as it's like a whole actual fruit banana and it's not like a pureed or that'll change the compounds within the food. So yeah, a whole banana a day is great. You can use something like that actually around your training or even during training.
What about a loaf of banana bread every day?
It depends what flours you're putting in there, how much fat you're putting in there, what oils. Yeah, those are all, are you adding nuts? What's in there?
I'm adding all the good stuff in there, so it tastes
chocolate
good.
Chips. I don't know.
Yeah, there we go.
So yeah, that's a good one. But there's also tons of potassium in there too. So it's nice to. I just had an athlete email me today, and I was having her top off on our electrolyte stores before Kona, and she's like, "Can I just eat a banana instead?" And I'm like, "Well, in a whole banana, there's enough potassium in there that hits those requirements that I'm recommending for her weekly potassium intake." So yeah, a banana is great. So
that's cool. I like that. Tammy, let me see. Romula asks, what's your take on acai? Am I saying that right?
I think you are. Yeah.
I've had an acai bowl. A mutual friend of ours took us to a place in Fairfax.
Oh, yeah.
The little acai bowl.
Yeah, a friend of mine owns that.
It just tasted like frozen yogurt or ice cream.
Right.
And I was just in a bowl, and it's healthy. So it's all right, what's going on here?
Yeah.
You delicious acai stuff. I have a bowl of acai with oat and berries every morning for breakfast.
Yum.
What's your take?
That sounds really good.
Delicious.
Yeah, that sounds really good. The acai is obviously giving you those antioxidants. So it depends too. Again, back to that antioxidant post-training session. Did you just come from a run that morning and now you're eating your breakfast, or are you doing your training session later? So yeah, if it's first thing in the morning and you're going to train later, acai bowl sounds delicious. I might have to make that tomorrow.
I love that. That's so cool. Yeah. Well, guys, I think we are going to hit this giveaway. You guys have asked such great questions, and let's go ahead and find it. We got about 70 seconds left, so if you haven't entered, you got one last little bit to go ahead and hit that link down in the description and get those entries in there. We got a bunch of you guys in there so far, which we're super pumped about. Again, you can find Kyla at Nutritional Revolution on Instagram. I put that in the comments on YouTube. I'll make sure I put that in the comments on Facebook as well. Let's see here. Nope, that did not work. It's at Nutritional Revolution there, and we'll make sure that we get you in, and then once again, we're giving this pretty sweet, pretty awesome giveaway, which we're stoked about. 25 seconds to go. The final countdown begins as we start to go through.
Who's going to be the winner?
I know. And Kyla, thank you so much for coming out.
No problem. Thanks for having me.
Guys, if you like her and you like this, we'll have to have her back on again. I loved your guys' questions today. We got into some really great specifics. Remember, some of you guys were asking on just kind of general nutrition stuff. I know Kyla has a great blog where you can dig in there.
Try a little bit.
Try there and get some good stuff in.
Yeah.
So now this thing is finally ended. Let's go to our winners. And let's go to draw. Drum roll, please. We're going for 2. Da-da-da-da-da-da. Drawing. All right, so here we go. Winner number 1 is James Cedar. Seatter. You are all the way from Geneva, Switzerland.
Wow.
Fantastic.
Yeah.
So James, you are a winner of a performance nutrition template and a month of training club from us. We will email you after this with those details. And Gloria Gant, congratulations, Gloria from Savannah, Tennessee.
Awesome.
Super stoked to have you in there, Gloria. You were asking a ton of questions, so I'm super stoked you guys got in. Nice job, guys. And thank you again so much.
Yeah, thank you guys.
Great. Well, we are going to shut things off for the moment, and we will see you guys next week. Remember, we're here on this hour every single Wednesday. We absolutely love it. Here we go. I can hear Nora in the background, and she just went for a walk with Craig, so she's super stoked to get back in and say hello. Here we go. All right, guys. Peace.